In this video with Laura Stone from purposestone.com, we're going to talk about consulting and her workshop process. Hey Laura, how you doing?
Very well, thank you.
So I understand that part of the work that you do is there's a consulting aspect, there are workshops involved. Let's start with consulting. What does that look like? How does that work?
Yeah, so the consulting is very straightforward. We really want to be focusing on why are we really here? What's the pain the client's feeling? What's the opportunity they can experience? What is the return of, if we could hit this ball out of the park and get 100x return, what would that really mean? And so once we have success defined, then we look at what's the best way to get there. And typically, most clients are figuring out first doing a current state analysis. Very simply, interviews with key stakeholders like the executive team, key people who are the customers that we want to hear from, as well as people throughout the organization from different parts of it. So once we have that data, we collect it, make it transparent to everybody with permission from everyone, and then we bring in an executive team or a specific team who are going to be working on this process. And it could be where there's been a merger and you've got 2 or 3 different cultures trying to come together. It could be where they're trying to reduce supply chain timing and really looking at the ins and outs. Or it could be about how to have greater inclusion in the organization because they know they want to increase engagement scores. So once that clarity is there, then we start looking at what is it that really is driving you to be sitting at this circle and what's the difference you want to make. And we look at that from every person who's part of this process about what their gifts are, leveraging the book A Pocket Guide to Purpose, where that gives people an individual chance to reflect on why are they really here and what difference do they want to make. And this has been work I've been doing for decades and is really near and dear to my heart. And what I find is in doing this work is that when they are able to articulate why are they really here and see the connection to the strategy, they are so much more powerful and effective and efficient with how they use their time and how they get things done. As a team, what we do is we look at the data, coming back to the data analysis about why are we really here. We end up taking this data and saying, okay, what's the fewest, most essential things we must address in order to accomplish what will make us proud? And then we start putting the pieces in place to say, what are the fewest, most essential things that we must do in order to accomplish it? And then the second piece of that is, who are we as the leaders? What do we need to be about? Who do we need to be, and how do we need to step up our game? And it might mean around knowing how to deal with difficult conversations, knowing how to have more effective time usage at their meetings, knowing how to shorten the cycle time, for example, of a particular project. So it's taking, and actually one other really important one is how to say no to projects, because that's a very difficult place for many clients, is they keep piling on more work, but they haven't deciphered out and settled out what they're not going to do. Once we have that clarity, then we're putting together a game plan where we're looking at primarily the next quarter to 2 quarters. And then we start looking at, depending upon the need of the client, which is different with every client, what's the work that the executive may need to do. So typically our team will have an assigned to an executive, do an executive coaching that aligns with the roadmap strategy, that then aligns with the next level down. So it all is in sync, kind of like an orchestra. The violins are going with the flutes, which are part of the drums, but it's all set to a beat that's pre-planned from the standpoint of just enough to know the roadmap that they need to be successful at.
All right, this makes sense now. I'm going to be the devil's advocate for a second. Because what you've said here is you're looking for knock them out of the park results.
Yes.
10x, 100x kinds of results.
Yes.
So talk me through the business outcomes here. What do I get out of this if I do this work with you?
So it really depends on what the issues are that you're having. So every client is different with their context and their work. So I'll give you a couple of quick examples.
Great.
If that's all right. One particular client had a situation where they were realizing purpose itself was very important to the organization as a whole. And what they couldn't figure out was, how do we actually connect the dots that every executive understands what their purpose is? So part of our work was sitting down literally with the top 500 of one of these very large top 500
wow.
executives.
Okay.
Executives globally.
That's a big company.
It is a very big company, and we did 30 at a time. And this work has been magnificent because these leaders, usually there would be 85 to 90% were very clear that this is the right company for them. And we have honest conversations about it, the 10% that this is not for them, and that's okay. And when I say that is that the organization actually benefits from them leaving because they're happier, they'll be more effective. But no one ever really wants to talk about that as a way to help a leader move on. Because if that gap gets created, then someone else gets to step up whose passion and purpose is really right there. So that kind of company has, that particular client has made tremendous progress with bringing far greater return on their financials. They've had a 10 to 15% gain in some particular departments where these leaders have gone through the program. And those leaders have helped their people also figure out why are they really here. And that process,
so kind of it ripples down.
It cascades, absolutely.
Cascades, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Okay.
So sometimes the metrics, I'm going to say, are financial.
Yes.
Sometimes they're to do with, say, engagement.
Yes.
That sort of thing. All right, let's move on here because that's making sense to me.
Okay.
Talk to me about workshops. How do workshops work in the consulting process?
Yeah. So what we're trying to do now was one of my clients said, democratize purpose. So enable to have the conversation about purpose, much cleaner, easier way to help a leader who perhaps is not as comfortable with that conversation. So one of the workshops we're offering is to basically create purpose guides. Help them have conversations that at a minimum they have some scripts in here that they can use and leverage, and they can show it to the person they're working with. Because I think what we have found is that people are not only delighted, they're like asking for it and craving to be asked their opinion. People want to be seen and understood.
Absolutely.
And I've had it, I can't tell you, and this makes me so sad, is many times organizations, clients of mine have said after they go through this, I've never been asked my opinion. And I've been here 20 years, and this is not an uncommon situation. So this makes me go, wait a second, if all we have to do to get people engaged is to see them, talk to them, ask them questions. On some levels, some people might be thinking this is so straightforward, right? Of course you just go talk to people. But there's some executives who just feel like their role is in this place, in this box, and that's not part of what I should be doing and getting out that much, compared to others that notice that when they are out, and this is something we want to do, is get as many people engaged, maximum appropriate involvement. Far greater work occurs, energy builds, ideas come in, innovation happens. Far greater creativity.
And we mentioned the book, Pocket Guide to Purpose, but there are 3 or 4. Can you just give me, honestly, like 13 seconds on each? There are 3 or 4 coming.
Yes.
There's the Pocket Guide to Purpose, which we've spoken about. What are the other ones?
So this one is for the individual. The second one is for leaders, anyone who's helping someone else figure out their purpose. The third book is for teams, a Pocket Guide to Purpose for teams, so we know very clearly why we're here, what's the work not only we can do, and what will hit the ball out of the park. The fourth is a field guide for the first book. So purpose gets evolved over time, so we're giving people a place, a physical place at this point to write in their thoughts, also to encourage them if they want to use their phone, whatever means for capturing it,
right,
but to capture so they can see the trends and patterns over time that make their purpose up. And then the last we have is a card deck that supports all 3.
All
Or
right,
4,
good. And those are used as part of the consulting and workshop process?
Yes.
All right, anything else big we've missed in the consulting/workshop space? I think we've got a lot of it there.
The only other thing is a process that clients bring us in for. We started out with a keynote speech, working so you can get a lot of people engaged in the conversation.
Okay.
Then bringing it to an executive team to say, how are we going to integrate what we learned from that keynote, to then giving the books to everybody in the organization or core numbers of them. So the language starts getting aligned and very clear about what are we really doing here. Then everything falls from that.
Just pick your top 500.
That's
Just
right.
your top 500.
Just the top 500. Yeah.
All right, thanks very much. I appreciate that. For those of you who'd like to find out more, please visit us online at purposestone.com. Also, feel free to like this video, share this video if you have any questions in the comments section below, and of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel.